Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅgham saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Friends, let's all study, investigate and practice the real words of the Buddha. Real words of the Buddha is rare in the world. For the last 2600 years, in the history of Buddhism, there have been composed many different Buddhist literature. We have a lot of later works. The Buddha's teaching is available only in the original teachings, original discourses. If we want to understand the real words of the Buddha, we have to go to the original discourses and understand what the Buddha really said. Every Thursday from 7 to 8:30 at night, New York time, we meet to discuss these original discourses of the Buddha. This is our talk number 64. Tonight, our topic is first be virtuous, then what is to be explained. This is based on a particular discourse from the Connected Discourses of the Buddha, Samyutta Nikaya. The chapter 22, the discourse number 122. The name of the discourse is Virtuous. Virtuous, be virtue. Be virtuous one. We all, as humans, we have to be virtuous. We have to be spiritual. We have to lead a spiritual life. Virtue, basically, as laypersons, you all have 5 precepts as your daily precepts. That is how the people lead virtuous life. On the full moon, new moon and half moon, people observe different precepts, like 8 precepts, 9 types of precepts or 10 precepts to be virtuous. Once you are virtuous, what is to be done? Then what is to be done? That is what we are going to talk tonight. This is a discourse, sort of dialogue between Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahakottita. Let's come to the discourse. On one occasion, the Venerable Sariputta and the Venerable Mahakottita were dwelling at Varanasi. That is the exact place where the Buddha delivered his maiden discourse, first discourse. Then, in the evening, the Venerable Mahakottita emerged from seclusion, from his meditation, then approached the Venerable Sariputta, exchanged greetings, and said to him, "Friend Sariputta, what are the things that a virtuous bhikkhu," bhikkhu means the practitioner, not necessarily a bhikkhu, not necessarily a monk, either monk, nun, or any lay person, whoever is virtuous, what are the things that a virtuous person should carefully attend to? That was the question. But first one has to be virtuous. Virtuous life is always appreciated. Buddha once said, a certain deity came to the Buddha and said, "Bhante," that was at night, "Bhante, inner tangle, outer tangle, tangle over tangle, who will disentangle this tangle?" The deity, the Deva, asked. Then the Buddha said, "The wise person, having established virtue, and developing concentration and insight, will disentangle this tangle." That was what the Buddha said. That means the virtue is first. Sila. Virtue is sila in Pali. In Pali, it's sila. Virtue. Without virtue, it is difficult to concentrate, difficult to practice meditation. You must have seen the pagoda. Of the pagoda, the base, the foundation, is what is called sila. Pagoda is a simile of the whole teaching of the Buddha, where the base, the foundation is sila. Virtuous life is always appreciated. So Buddha said to this particular deity, Buddha said, the wise person, having established on sila, then practice concentration and insight. Such a person will disentangle this tangle. So in this case, let's see what Venerable Sariputta's answer. Friend Kottita, a virtuous bhikkhu, a virtuous person, should carefully attend to the 5 aggregates subject to clinging. That is what is to be done. 5 aggregates are to be understood by the virtuous person. Being virtuous, one has to understand, first of all, one has to understand as his or her meditation. First thing is to understand these 5 aggregates subject to clinging. What are the 5 aggregates? Form, feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness. These 5. Simply having these 5 aggregates is not a problem. Having 5 aggregates are not a problem. The problem is subject to clinging, means we cling to, as worldlings, worldly people, all worldly people, they cling to these 5 aggregates. That is the problem. That is what is called dukkha. That is what is called suffering. The Buddha said, 5 aggregates affected by clinging is suffering. So, the virtuous person should understand the 5 aggregates subject to clinging as what? As impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as non-self. There are 11 ways to understand, but not necessarily to understand, not necessarily to contemplate upon all these things, all these 11. If you can understand one thing, if you can understand 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, you can understand it is not only impermanent, it is suffering, it's also suffering, because whatever is impermanent, it is in the nature of suffering. And whatever is in the nature of impermanent suffering is in the nature of non-self. These 3 are called 3 characteristics of existence. In such a way, you can understand all these things, because all the Dhamma, whole teaching is connected, well connected, like a net. So, this is the way to understand 5 aggregates. So, 5 aggregates are arising, passing in the 6 sense bases. When we see the object, when we hear the object, when we smell the object, when we taste the object, when we tangible, tactile the object, when we think of a certain object, that what we take as the object is called form. That is the form aggregate. Then feeling aggregate, perception aggregate, volitional formation aggregate, and consciousness aggregate. These 5 are arising, passing in the 6 sense bases. Then the wise person, who is this wise person? Are they coming from the heaven? Are they coming from the earth? Opening the earth? No. Wise persons, we are the wise person. We have to be wise. The Buddha's teaching is for the wise. Buddha clearly said this. This Dhamma is for the wise. Fools can't understand this. So this is a science. This is called this. This is called mind science. Mind science of the Buddha. You have to understand this science through the 6 sense bases. Not material things, but mental. Mentally we have to understand these things. In order to understand this, first thing is mindfulness. We have to have mindfulness and we have to understand it clearly. That is what is called clear comprehension. Clear comprehension. Then wisdom arises. If we have mindfulness and clear comprehension, then wisdom arises there. So we have to understand 5 aggregates as impermanent, ever changing. What we grasp, if we grasp 5 aggregates, that grasping is, when we grasp it as permanent, as mine, me, myself. That is permanent. You have to let it go, not grasping. If you do not grasp, what happens? That is what is called impermanent. Permanently, it's going on. It's fading away, dissipate. That is what is called impermanent. Impermanence. Then we need to understand it as suffering. Why it is suffering? Because of grasping. Buddha said, grasping 5 aggregates is suffering. So if we grasp, grasping is the problem. If you grasp it, then it is permanent. You try to keep it permanently. And you want to grasp, if you grasp, you have to hold. Holding means suffering. Then see it as a disease. As a disease. If you have a sort of disease, it's not that easy. You have no easiness. That is why it is called dis-ease. Dis-ease is disease. You have no ease. Disease. It's like a tumor. If you have a tumor, then you have suffering. Understand it as a tumor. You don't want to. Therefore, you try to give it up, try to abandon, try to expel it, totally cut it off. See it as empty. See the 5 aggregates as empty and non-self, not a permanent thing. Self means permanent thing. Non-self. It's not self. Now the 5 aggregates are given here. We already talked about 5 aggregates. Form aggregate subject to clinging. The feeling aggregate subject to clinging. The perception aggregate subject to clinging. The volitional formation subject to aggregate subject to clinging. The consciousness aggregate subject to clinging. The virtuous bhikkhu should carefully attend to these 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, like that. So that is what the virtuous person should do. Venerable Sariputta says, When friend, a virtuous bhikkhu carefully attends thus to these 5 aggregates subject to clinging, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of stream entry. That is what happened. So, stream entry is not outside. It is not in the books. It is here, within. One experiences the Dhamma as a result of practicing in this manner, simply observing 5 aggregates, understanding these 5 aggregates as impermanent, unsatisfactory, without a self. And where you can understand the 3 characteristics at the same time, simultaneously, you understand the 4 noble truths. You understand the dependent origination. That is how you become a stream enterer. Through observing the 5 aggregates. It is the lens. Through that lens, you can see the 3 characteristics, the 4 noble truths, and the dependent origination as well. With that, you become a stream enterer. That is the meaning here. But friend Sariputta, Venerable Kottita asked, but friend Sariputta, what are the things that a bhikkhu who is a stream enterer should carefully attend to? Now, the virtuous person should see the 5 aggregates in this manner. Then he can attain the first stage, which is called stream entry. As a result, you can become a stream enterer. Then, what should be done by the stream enterer? That was the question. Venerable Sariputta says, friend Kottita, a bhikkhu who is a stream enterer should carefully attend to these 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as non-self. So what is that? But the stream enterer, what the stream enterer should do? He himself, she herself, should do the same thing. Friends, that is the same thing. No many different techniques are needed. This is the technique, this is the meditation. Only this meditation. So the stream enterer should do the same thing. When you do the same thing, the stream enterer, when he is doing the same thing, what happens? Venerable Sariputta says, when a bhikkhu who is a stream enterer carefully attends thus to these 5 aggregates subject to clinging, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of one's returning. So, when the stream enterer is practicing in such a way, he or she can become a once returner. Once returner means then he or she returns only one time here, only one time to this world. Then Venerable Kottita asked again, but friend Sariputta, what are the things that a bhikkhu who is a once returner should carefully attend to? What should the once returner do? What is his meditation? Once returner's meditation. So the virtuous one's meditation is practicing understanding the five aggregates subject to clinging. Then he becomes a stream enterer. The stream enterer's meditation is the same thing. Observing five aggregates, understanding five aggregates subject to clinging. The subject to clinging is the problem. Simply five aggregates are arising, perishing. Five aggregates is not a problem. It is happening all the time, even in the basis of the Buddha. Arahants, they have five aggregates, but not subject to clinging. They are not grasping these five aggregates. That is the difference. Now, the stream enterer's meditation is the same. And then once returner, what is the once returner's practice? That was the question. Then Venerable Sariputta says, friend Kottita, a bhikkhu who is a once returner should carefully attend to these five aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as non-self. So, what is his meditation? Once returner's meditation is the same thing. No need many different techniques, no need many different methods of meditations. This meditation, that meditation, all sort of meditations are there, but this is what is to be done. Then Venerable Sariputta further says, when friend a bhikkhu who is a once returner carefully attends thus to these five aggregates subject to clinging, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of non-returning. That is what happened to the once returner, practicing the same thing. While practicing the same thing, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of non-returning. Then Venerable Mahakottita asked, but friend Sariputta, what are the things that a bhikkhu who is a non-returner should carefully attend to? So he asked, what is the non-returner's meditation? What does he do? Friend Kottita, Venerable Sariputta says, friend Kottita, a bhikkhu who is a non-returner should carefully attend to these five aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, as disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as non-self. So, his meditation the same. Non-returner's meditation the same. When friend, a bhikkhu who is a non-returner carefully attends thus these five aggregates subject to clinging, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of arahantship. Fruit of arahantship. It's possible. Then further, Venerable Kottita asks, but friend Sariputta, what are the things that a bhikkhu who is an arahant, the enlightened one, should carefully attend to? What is the enlightened one's meditation? That is the question. What is the enlightened one's meditation? Then Venerable Sariputta says, friend Kottita, a bhikkhu who is an arahant, the enlightened one, should carefully attend to these 5 aggregates subject to clinging. 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as non-self. Enlightened one's meditation is the same. It's the same thing. So all of us have to practice the same thing. What is the thing? Observing, understanding the 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, or as selfless. Even these 3 enough. Finally, for the arahant, Venerable Sariputta says, for the arahant, why this arahant, the enlightened one, should practice the same thing? For the arahant, though he has finished, he has liberated, there is nothing further that has to be done, and no repetition of what he has already done. However, when these things are developed and cultivated, they lead to a pleasant dwelling, peaceful living, pleasant living. For the peaceful abiding, they themselves have to practice this. That is not to cut off anything, not to eradicate, not to destroy defilements, not to eradicate taints. All those gone. But for peaceful abiding, they have to practice the same thing in this very life, and to mindfulness and clear comprehension. In order to maintain further mindfulness and clear comprehension, arahants, they themselves practice the same thing. So friends, it is very clear. We all have to practice this meditation. Observing, understanding the 5 aggregates affected by clinging, subject to clinging, whenever they arise in the eye, in the ear, in the nose, in the tongue, in the body, and in the mind. This is what we have to do. So let's all practice. Let's all observe this. In order to observe this, mindfulness is the key. Without mindfulness, we cannot understand this. Mindfulness and clear comprehension. If we are mindful, we can understand these 5 aggregates, form aggregates. Whenever it arises, we can understand it. Then we do not grasp this. We do not cling to that. If we grasp it, if we cling to that, then we deposit it. That is what is called attachment. Attachment. Upadana. Upa means inside. Adana bringing in, then we deposit it. Once we deposit it, then it is deposited as a cause. When there are causes, there are effects. Cause and effect. The whole teaching of the Buddha is causality, cause and effect. If we deposit them as cause, then we have to reap the results. Where? In another life, another birth. In such a way, we are merging to the samsaric existence. Another cycle of births and deaths. We are born somewhere. If we do not deposit, what would happen? Nowhere to go. We can finish it here, in this very life, in this very world. Friends, this is the way to seize this samsaric journey, realizing the real peace, real happiness of Nibbana. May we all realize this real peace, real happiness of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.